Probably just like No Way Home, this will be the millennials Marvel movie. Like the Marvel movie for the millennials if they bring everyone from the early 2000s, including Jessica Alba as Invisible Woman.
And, of course, Chris Evans as Human Torch.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, along with various others.
And considering the fact that I'm a huge X-Men fan, this movie is gonna be huge for me. I'm gonna be so happy. If Spider-Man was huge for him and he was really excited for Spider-Man, that's like the equivalent for me.
Yeah.
And if all of the X-Men cast comes back, like not the ones with McAvoy and Sophie Turner, like they're good too, but like I wouldn't be as happy and excited if they returned. But if the original cast returned with James Marsden, Hugh Jackman came back, then I would be completely ecstatic.
Yeah, even if they're not major roles, just like quick cameos.
Even if it's just cameos, I would be happy.
Yeah. Hey guys, Bluefin100 back again with another video. And once again, I'm here with my sister for another review. So we just watched Deadpool and Wolverine. So this movie takes place right after the end of Deadpool 2. After saving his friends and loved ones, he decides to give up being a superhero and decides to live a normal life and become a car salesman. Then the TVA shows up at his door. They pull Wade from his quiet life and set him on a mission to save his universe,
while also teaming up with Wolverine.
This is also the movie fans are hoping will save the MCU. Our thoughts on the movie? It's probably one of the best MCU movies we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And don't worry, we won't get into spoilers yet because at the time we're recording this video, the movie just came out. So we'll talk about the spoilers in a separate video.
Yeah, because then this video will end up being too long.
Yeah, just like with the No Way Home review. So we decided to just do it basically part by part. I was so entertained and smiling throughout this entire movie. This is probably the first Marvel movie or MCU movie I enjoyed since No Way Home. And in my opinion, it's as entertaining as Spider-Man No Way Home.
But because our expectations were so low, like especially mine, we weren't as anxious when it started as how we were when we watched No Way Home.
Now before getting into our initial thoughts, we're just gonna quickly recap the movies we watched in preparation for this movie. Just like with No Way Home, we did watch most of the Fox X-Men movies along with the 2 Deadpool movies and the 3 Wolverine movies, as well as a few of the Marvel Fox movies and 2 episodes of the Loki series. So as I mentioned in our trailer reactions, we were hoping this movie would be the better version of Multiverse of Madness.
Since we pretty much knew this movie would be bringing back characters like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, and Elektra because of Jennifer Garner, she was being like so obvious.
Yeah, that's what we thought Multiverse of Madness was going to be because of, you know, all these cameos and whatnot, but that was not the case.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really Sam Raimi's fault. He had a lot of pressure put on him since it did come right after No Way Home. People did expect a movie titled Multiverse of Madness to have a bunch of people from different multiverses from different movies, and a lot of people expected that from him. But like, it wasn't really his fault because I think it was filmed like right after that movie, so you can't really blame him. Also the budget, which they kind of made a joke of in this movie, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Now after watching this movie, I can definitely say it's a lot better than Multiverse of Madness in terms of cameos.
Yeah, this movie was like really focused on the cameos pretty much. Like everyone even says so. Like everyone's talking about the cameos.
Yeah, it's basically what they did with Spider-Man No Way Home with their cameos, but
yeah, it didn't spread throughout the entire movie, but they had a pretty good chunk in the movie.
Yeah, except for one character, but we'll talk about that in the spoilers section. But let's go ahead and go through the things that we really liked in the movie first. So first off, the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine after 7 to 8 years. So after hearing the news that Hugh Jackman would be coming back in this movie as Wolverine, we were excited.
Yeah.
Because after what they did in Logan,
we were pretty much upset when they killed him and Professor X off in Logan.
Yeah.
Especially me, like, you know, being an X-Men fan, I don't like, even though they killed off Professor X in Last Stand, I don't like how they completely murdered him probably more brutal than how Jean killed him in Last Stand. So I was just really happy that Hugh Jackman was back as Wolverine in this movie.
Yeah, it's the same thing when Tobey came back in No Way Home, and when Patrick Stewart came back in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. Although they are variants, I'm just glad that they're back as those characters.
And same thing with the action, we really liked.
Yeah.
Much like with No Way Home, it probably has the best action in the Deadpool trilogy, but unlike with No Way Home, where most of the fights were CG, the fights in this one were actually, well, practical and very well choreographed.
They were still using CG in some fights, but they weren't used as much compared to the other MCU movies.
Yeah, like for instance, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, or even
No Way Home.
Yeah, or Multiverse of Madness, or the Marvels, just
etc.
Yeah, I'm really glad with this movie they use more like outdoor scenery and whatnot as compared to those movies. Like I understand like the last few movies were filmed during COVID and they were very limited for like space and whatnot, but we prefer practical sets over like green screen or blue screen sets. Yeah, so I'm really glad what they did with this movie. Another thing we really liked is that it's just as funny as the first two. Although the first two we didn't really, laugh too hard, this one we laughed our asses off in the theater.
Yeah.
Especially the opening sequence, which we'll get to soon, because we don't really want to spoil what happens in it, but
it has a lot of millennial comedy, which relates a lot to us. Although he's not exactly a millennial, he's like a zillennial, but it still really relates to us.
Yeah, but this is probably the best opening sequence in a superhero movie I've seen in years.
Ever. Like the comedy that they show in the MCU, which barely gets even a tickle out of me. This, just with that simple montage, I was laughing throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
It was that hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
even our parents were laughing beside us during that sequence.
Almost the entire theater was laughing throughout the entire thing.
But unfortunately, almost majority of the movie, I would say, or even half of the movie, it was kind of dead, like dead quiet. As compared to like No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, there wasn't a lot of like reactions.
But I think mostly because the people in our theater were mostly people who were just new here to Canada. So they weren't really comfortable in, they weren't really used to the loud reactions that you hear in the theater like how we do here. Like it wasn't as explosive or like loud as it was when we watched No Way Home, unfortunately, but it was still pretty good. Like a lot of people still reacted when they had to react. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Now for the things we didn't really like in this movie. There isn't a lot we didn't like in this movie as compared to other reviewers on YouTube, but there's only like probably
just a few things that we have to nitpick about.
First things off is the overuse of Marvel Jesus.
It would have been good if they said it like the first time, like we saw in the trailer, but they overused it, and there was a lot of blasphemous stuff in the beginning that like annoyed me.
I just found it really stupid and cringy. It wasn't even funny.
So like to the people who think that it's not so bad, as a Catholic, as someone who's Christian and Catholic, like for us it's really offensive.
Yeah, when they overuse it, I'm just like, okay, it got to the point where it just like you didn't need to overuse that line again and again and again and again.
And what they showed like early on into like the beginning of the movie, it was a little too much.
Yeah. Another thing we didn't really like as much was the story. It was a bit weak compared to the other two, in my opinion.
Like, I do like how they bonded throughout the entire movie. As Sean Levy said, that this movie is all about the friendship and the bromance between Wolverine and Deadpool. Like, the companionship and the relationship that they develop with each other in this movie. It was good.
Yeah, it was we really enjoyed that part.
But the story, I wouldn't say it's weak. I would say that it's a little different between the first two. Obviously, just like it's pretty much like with Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies.
That's how I would compare it with these movies.
Yeah, it has a different kind of vibe to it, but I did enjoy it.
Oh yeah. And lastly, for the things we didn't really like, there is a fight in the middle of the movie where there was a bit too much shaky cam.
Yeah, you couldn't really see what was going on. Like, you could see, but like, it kind of, like, maybe because I'm getting old. but like it kind of gave me a headache. It's like, what's going on? What's happening?
Who's fighting who?
Yeah, who's fighting who? But like you could tell, but like too much shaky cam.
Yeah, like it didn't get to the point where like the frickin' final battle was like at night and you can barely see shit. I don't like when movies have too much shaky cam. Like to me, it's unnecessary. Unless if it's like a POV shot where the character's running. But I just don't like it how they did it in this movie with the middle fight.
Like, I know it's usually a necessity to do shaky cam for action sequences to make it look more entertaining and more action-filled. But it's like, when you do it too much, when you do it too vigorously, then it's a little bit of an eyesore.
Yeah, and since we did watch this movie in 3D, unfortunately, it was a bit of an eyesore. But we did manage to, watch the movie without no problems. Unlike with No Way Home, where they show literally the first 3 minutes and then it stopped and then they had to rewind it like 5 times.
Yeah, good thing we didn't see any spoilers for that. But.
Yeah. Now in regards to spoilers, one of the things that we really liked in this movie was the opening scene. And remember 2 years ago when Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman said in that video that they weren't going to touch Logan?
Logan takes place in 2029, totally separate thing. Logan died in Logan, not touching that.
Well, Deadpool digs up his corpse, and he pretty much uses his body to fight the TVA. And at the same time, he was dancing to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye, which is my favorite part in the entire movie.
I think it's everyone's favorite part at this point, because like everywhere we look on Instagram, the song is being played and the reference to Deadpool is being played, and it's gotten to the point where new gens are calling it the Deadpool dance.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, like that annoys me, but throughout the entire intro where Deadpool was dancing to that, like we were singing along to it. And I'm pretty sure everyone who knew the song in the theater was singing along to it too.
Yeah, and when the song was coming to an end, Deadpool pulls out the claws from the dead body of Logan, which I thought was really, really cool to see.
Yeah, that was really sick. Like our theater was like in awe when he did that.
So after that awesome sequence, which by the way is probably my favorite comic book opening of all time, or even my favorite Marvel opening, Wade is talking to someone, and that someone happens to be Happy Hogan.
Yeah, we were so surprised. Like, there was no indication or leak that he would even be in that. Like,
exactly. I was like in shock that he was able to go to the MCU. I mean, they did say that by the end of this movie that Deadpool and Wolverine would go into the MCU, whatever the ending of that movie would be, but that wasn't really the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, they were only there for like a little while. We knew they were gonna go into the MCU, but we didn't realize that it would be a specific person from the MCU to be in that, and we didn't expect it to be Happy Hogan.
Which I thought was a really funny scene because Wade is actually applying to become an Avenger, but of course he doesn't get in.
And Happy also explains to him that the Avengers is not just a team where you wear cool costumes and it's not just about the fighting, that they stand for something, like something important. The whole, thing that kids look up to, like I'm pretty sure kids look up to Deadpool as well, but like he's not exactly kid appropriate.
Yeah, he's more of the adult fan base.
And teenage fan base, I think, yeah.
So after Happy's entrance, and after the TVA pulls Wade from his universe, Paradox, aka Matthew McFadden, shows Wade some clips from the MCU, including a clip of Thor crying over Deadpool, which apparently will mean something in the future, probably Secret Wars, but I don't know. We're not too sure.
Yeah, also it's not Chris Hemsworth in that. Like, Chris Hemsworth didn't even know that Thor was gonna be in this movie to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of looked like him, but at the same time it didn't, so...
Yeah, I knew it wasn't him.
So we're not really sure if that's Chris Hemsworth's Thor or a variant of Thor, so... I don't know. Also, in this movie, they introduced a thing called anchor beings, which basically, if an important character from that universe dies, then that universe will slowly start to die as well. And that anchor being Paradox mentions that's in the Fox Marvel universe is Logan, or Wolverine. And they even show clips from when Logan was about to die in Logan.
Yeah, up to now it doesn't really make sense to me. Well, I think, you know how Deadpool can travel through time? He probably traveled all the way to the future when that event happened. I think it does make sense, because like that kind of made us think, like, is Deadpool's universe set in the far future, or is it like in present day, like 2020 something or whatever, or
Yeah.
is it set in the 90s or 2000s?
Or
It's kind of
2010s.
confusing, but you know, if you think about these things too much, you're gonna go crazy thinking about it. So I think it's just best to see it as it is.
Yeah. And this is a response to the people who commented on our second Deadpool and Wolverine trailer reaction that we were a bit confused on which Wolverine this was. If it was the one from the original X-Men movies or Logan or even the 90s X-Men series. At the time we didn't really know what Logan was, but it turns out this is an entirely new Wolverine variant made for this movie.
I was surprised that I was actually okay with this variant, like even though it wasn't the one I wanted. I find him equal and very similar to the one that we grew up with anyway, so...
Yeah. He's just as good as the original Wolverine that we grew up with. Then later on, after Deadpool kills the TVA, he ends up going to various universes to find a Wolverine that isn't dead. So the first universe he goes to, he does find a Logan that isn't dead. However, it's a comic accurate version of Logan.
Meaning it's a short Logan, like
Yeah.
a really short Logan. Like, he's not even 5'4", he's probably like 4 feet tall.
Like, there is a picture that someone made a couple years ago, basically comparing the heights between the comic accurate version of Logan and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. And from that point on, he pretty much goes to different universes that has a Wolverine. Like, a Wolverine that has only one hand, a Wolverine that's wearing his classic suit, the yellow and brown one. And in that universe, he's fighting a Hulk variant, which was honestly a really surprising scene. She didn't even notice that it was Hulk until I mentioned it again after we saw the movie.
Yeah, like, I think it was because of the 3D glasses that I didn't see it that well, but like, I just thought it was a really buff, really big Wolverine.
And then the second to last universe that he goes to before encountering the one that's in this movie, there's a Wolverine that's played by Henry Cavill, which was another surprising cameo that I didn't even expected.
Yeah, he even jokes like, oh, he looks like Henry Cavill from behind, and he turns around.
And it's actually Henry Cavill, which I honestly think he would be a pretty good choice to play as Wolverine, even as a variant.
Yeah. There were also many rumors that Daniel Radcliffe would be in this movie, that he would be the one shown in the trailer where he's wearing a white jacket, but
Yeah, patch.
that was still Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I honestly thought that it would be Daniel Radcliffe, but it was actually Hugh Jackman playing as Patch. But maybe one day, like in Secret Wars, hopefully that Daniel Radcliffe would play as a Wolverine variant, but I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know why I was kind of upset that it wasn't Daniel. Because I guess people were hyping it up a little too much, and that kind of, you know, made me expect that it was Daniel, even though I said that my expectations would be low, but like, I don't know, I kind of believed that it would be Daniel.
Same here, but no. And during that montage, they were playing the song from Back to the Future, aka Power of Love, which was another song that I was singing along to.
Yeah, I found it pretty fitting for that whole montage, because it's like, he's not exactly going back in time, but he's going to like different timelines, so I think...
It kind of fit the mood of the scene. Actually, most of the songs in this movie were pretty fitting.
Even the emotional songs playing in this movie, it fit the scene that it was playing in.
Now on to the first big cameo of this movie. I was honestly very surprised about this cameo appearing in the movie, and it appears right after Deadpool and Wolverine's fight in the Void. And that person is none other than Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, or Human Torch.
Yeah, I was kind of confused at first because I wasn't sure if it was Captain America or Johnny. Like, I had a feeling in between because his costume, it was pretty much covered with this, like, cloak or a hoodie of some sort, and then the arms were red, so I thought it was Captain America, and his beard kind of threw me off, but I kind of knew he was Johnny with the brown hair, but I wasn't too sure. But when he finally said his catchphrase...
Yeah, everyone was cheering in the theater. It was pretty similar to when Green Goblin showed up in No Way Home, or when Doc Ock showed up. And at the same time, Pyro and Sabretooth are in that scene. We were also cheering and very happy to see Pyro and Sabretooth return in this movie.
But I was kind of upset that Sabretooth had like only a split second screen time. I thought the fight would be like when we watched the behind the scenes footage, I thought that the fight would be a little longer, but it just cut to when Wolverine sliced his head off.
Yeah, that was honestly unexpected, but I kind of had a feeling that it was going to be short, but it was honestly great seeing Tyler Mane back as Sabretooth after 24 years.
Yeah, he's honestly our favorite Sabretooth, well mine.
Like, I love Liev Schreiber, but Tyler Mane Sabretooth is what we grew up first.
And he looks better.
But with Pyro, it was honestly great seeing him again after X-Men The Last Stand because, well, he pretty much got his ass kicked by Iceman in that movie. But during that scene where Human Torch says flame on and he's about to use his flame powers, Pyro just basically takes his power away, or just absorbs the fire.
Yeah, since he can't create a fire, but he can manipulate it, I found that pretty funny, because Johnny's known to show off, so we pretty much met his match with Pyro.
Unfortunately, and we thought that that would be the end of Chris Evans' Human Torch, but he's honestly in the movie for like another like 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Multiverse of Madness all over again, where they only have a split second of screen time, and then they kill them off right away. I'm just like, no, not again.
But thank God he was in the movie a little longer than we expected him to be. But just like with John Krasinski's Miss Fantastic in Multiverse of Madness, he pretty much got the same treatment he did, but Cassandra pretty much just took away his skin. And that just disappointed us again, because it just gave us Multiverse of Madness flashbacks.
All over again, yeah. But they did explain why they had to shorten his appearance. It was because Deadpool makes a fourth wall joke about Chris Evans making the budget a little too high on his appearance, so that's why they had to cut it off a little.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with what we got for Chris, that, you know, he had this much screen time. He didn't die right away as when we thought, but the way he died, it did kind of upset me.
Yeah, same here.
But I think they're saving him for Secret Wars. That's
Hopefully.
what I'm thinking. Hopefully, but you know, we'll see.
Yeah, because as I predicted like 2 years ago with Multiverse of Madness, I really hoped that movie would show Chris Evans back as Human Torch, but it was actually this movie that reintroduce him again as Human Torch.
Yeah, but they explained that this Human Torch isn't the Human Torch from the 2005 movie. It's just a variant.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy about. And hopefully they bring back that Human Torch. And then Deadpool would make a little joke like, hey, didn't you die up in the void?
Yeah. So I just hope that Chris Evans does come back as Human Torch from the original Fantastic Four movies from the 2000s.
Yeah. Because, like, he was the best character in that entire movie.
Yeah. And aside from the other villains in this movie that were from the original X-Men movies and the other Fox Marvel movies, we did see, like, some familiar faces. Even though they weren't played by the same actors in those movies, it was still cool seeing, you know, the characters again. Like Juggernaut from X-Men 3, Lady Deathstrike from X2, Bullseye from the Daredevil movie, and Toad. Yeah, and even Psylocke from X-Men Apocalypse, but it wasn't Olivia Munn or Kelly Hu or even Vinnie Jones. Like, we thought that they were going to be in this movie, but apparently that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and like that is what kind of makes me scared for future projects. Like the budget of getting every single actor back as their old character, that's what kind of scares me, that they won't be able to bring everybody back because of budget. And that makes me a little anxious, because I know we all want to see old actors come back as their old roles that we've known them for.
Like Ben Affleck, for example. He doesn't even want to play as Daredevil again. He just wants to play as Batman or just whatever role they give him.
Yeah, I think he's kind of got a little lost identity for acting at this moment, so that's probably why.
Yeah.
Like, they even made a joke about that, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, but regardless, it was cool seeing those characters again, even if they weren't played by their respective actors. Another scene we really liked, but we didn't say in the spoiler review because it was kind of a spoiler, but at the same time it wasn't. But it was the scenes between Nicepool and Dogpool interacting with both Deadpool and Wolverine.
Dogpool is so cute. I don't care what anybody says about how she looks. And her owner is Nicepool, which I think he's like the funniest in this entire movie.
Yeah, like there's a scene towards the end of the movie when they go to Deadpool's universe that he's like, oh, I can also break the fourth wall too. The Proposal.
Which is the movie where a lot of people first knew Ryan Reynolds from.
And now we're finally moving on to the big cameos of this movie. Although we did say Chris Evans was one of the big cameos of this movie,
there's even bigger cameos.
Yeah, so the first cameo that happens literally an hour and 6 minutes in is Elektra, played by none other than Jennifer Garner.
Question for you. Did you ever think you were going to wear the Elektra suit again?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
what did you mean?
We're pretty sure about it, so we know what's up.
I'm Fred. No appearance in Deadpool Wolverine, but like, is that confirmed? Is that definite? We're definitely not going to see it pop up anytime. And if not, was it a bit sad not to be involved?
Of course it's sad. I love Hugh, and creatively I love Ryan and I love Sean. I'm really excited to see what they've made. I think Sean's like one of the best directors out there right now, and obviously Ryan's a legend, so it would have been amazing to be a part of it, but I'll just go watch it as a fan.
I did not get a call.
Several months later.
First, I'd like to introduce Daphne King.
No
in the next
way.
I'd like to introduce Jennifer Garner as
Yeah, she was being so obvious. Like, she thinks we didn't learn from Andrew Garfield at this point.
Yeah, like every actor who was associated in these movies, the Marvel movies, like they're pretty much copying what Andrew Garfield did in No Way Home. And after Elektra showed up, the one that had the loudest reaction in the theater was Wesley Snipes back as Blade.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he would be in this movie.
Like, I don't think anybody knew he would be in this movie. Like, no one would have thought. Everyone was expecting him to be in, like, the later movies, like Secret Wars and stuff like that. But he appeared in this movie.
Yeah, like, it was the biggest bombshell that they showed in this movie. And then the next cameo they showed right after Blade was Gambit, played by Channing freaking Tatum.
Yeah, you would think that whoever would come right after Blade would have less of a reaction, but no, everyone was so excited to see Channing Tatum as Gambit finally.
Yeah, because if you guys didn't know that he was supposed to play as Gambit in the mid-2010s, but once Disney bought Fox, his movie pretty much got cancelled.
Yeah.
So we never got to see his Gambit on the big screen. But finally with this movie, we finally got to see what his Gambit got to be. And I gotta say, although I love his costume because it is comic accurate, I gotta say it looks really weird.
I think this movie also was about like comic accuracy on not only variants in characters but also like the costumes and stuff, because that's what they kind of showed here for Wolverine and Deadpool and then now Gambit. And Gambit was pretty much the comic relief other than Deadpool in this movie.
Yeah, because he had a weird ass accent, because in X-Men Origins Wolverine, he didn't really have an accent. I mean, he kind of did, but it wasn't like this in this movie.
Yeah, and also it was played by a different person, and like we couldn't really tell what accent he was going for, and we couldn't really tell what he was saying majority of the time.
They even make a joke about it. He's just like, okay, who's your dialect coach? Is it the Minions?
Yeah, our mom laughed at that part.
That was honestly like the highlight of this movie for me. Besides seeing Wesley Snipes back as Blade after so many years, I think seeing Channing Tatum as Gambit was probably my favorite cameo in this movie.
We can't forget the last cameo, Daphne King
as Laura, or X-23.
Unfortunately, she didn't get a lot of cheers because people already saw her in the
trailer.
Kind of what they did for Doc Ock because they saw him in the trailer. And I think, so at first I thought it was the fault of whoever was in control of the trailers, but the person behind her appearance in the trailer was
her.
Daphne Keane herself. Because apparently Kevin Feige said that Daphne Keane wanted to be at the premiere, so in order for that to happen,
she had to be in the final trailer, which we thought it was Marvel that spoiled it for us, but it was actually her.
Yeah, so that's kind of on her that she didn't get much of a reaction. I don't know about other theaters. I'm pretty sure they also cheered for her as well, but in our theater, they didn't really.
I did, because I only cheered for faces that we were familiar with. And before they actually showed Laura or X-23, right after they showed Gambit, Deadpool thinks that the fourth member is Magneto, but unfortunately Cassandra Nova killed him off screen.
And we're not sure which Magneto it is because they don't really expand on that.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's not Michael Fassbender, since once again he is the younger version of Ian McKellen's.
Yeah, like they're not even from different universes or even, you know, variants. Like they're literally from different points in time.
Yeah, they even explained that in Days of Future Past that they were from the past. That's like saying Hayden Christensen's Anakin is a variant of Darth Vader.
Yeah, like that wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
But they also mentioned some other characters that obviously were not in the movie, like Quicksilver, the Punisher, but again, we don't even know which Punisher it was, and even Daredevil, which Deadpool does make a joke about to Elektra, but Elektra's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, because even though they are divorced in real life, they're still friends, but she knows that he doesn't want to return as Daredevil anymore.
Unfortunately, which I would love to see him return in Secret Wars.
Yeah, I really do.
Although I like Charlie Cox as Daredevil, I would like to see Ben Affleck return as Daredevil one day.
Yeah, me too, because that's the Daredevil that I grew up with. I don't think he ever saw it fully. I saw it fully, but I don't remember it completely. I only remember the part where he's like reading Braille and stuff like that, and learning to read in Braille, so.
I've only seen like bits and pieces of it. But we were originally going to watch it in preparation for this movie, but unfortunately we couldn't find it in any other platform. I mean, it is on Disney Plus, but here in Canada, it's
not in Canada. We don't have that.
We have the Charlie Cox version of Daredevil, but not the Ben Affleck one from 2003. Another part I liked in this movie, but I obviously couldn't say because that would have been a huge spoiler. Although it is in the final trailer in this movie, it's only for a few seconds, but it's a conversation between Laura and Wolverine. Because she basically tells that version of Logan that her Logan basically made her who she is.
Yeah, they have a little moment where she's like, you're just like him. And we think that this Laura is the Laura from
Logan. Because
she has the glasses,
yeah,
she has the scream, she has everything, and her saying that this Logan reminds her of her Logan, it shows that her Logan is the one who passed away and now she's all grown up, but she was just thrown into the void.
Yeah, like we're not really sure how she got into the void because it's never really explained how the TVA went up to her and, you know, pruned her. And like we were also thinking that since there were people trying to catch her in Logan, maybe the TVA were also after her after the events of that movie.
Which caused her to be thrown into the void.
But through the years, the TVA probably caught up to her when she was in her like late teenage years.
And finally threw her into the void when they had the chance.
Yeah, that's what we think because otherwise...
It's just a theory, like we're not certain, but that's how we think she got into the void.
Yeah, because this can't be a variant of the one we saw in Logan.
Yeah.
Now, although we said in the non-spoilers video, there was a battle in the middle that had too much shaky cam, I did like the battle overall because it had both Wolverine, Deadpool, Blade, Elektra, Gambit, and Laura
fighting the X-Men villains.
Yeah.
It was pretty epic of a battle.
Like, although it wasn't on par, say, with the 3 Spider-Man fighting the villains, it was still really cool seeing those 4 characters fighting with Deadpool and Wolverine. And before that final battle in the void with the cameos, there was a point in this movie where we thought all the cameos were gonna die again.
Just like in Multiverse of Madness, but thank God they didn't. Like, they all regenerated. Like, we remembered, oh yeah, they have healing powers. Like, Blade is part vampire, so he's like kind of immortal. Elektra, I think she also has healing powers. I don't fully remember. So. And Laura has healing powers.
Yeah, because she has the same powers as both her dad and Deadpool. I'm not really sure about Gambit. Although he is a mutant, we're not really sure if he has, you know, any healing powers.
Yeah, but thank God they didn't make the same mistake again.
Yeah, because we were so traumatized with what they did in Multiverse of Madness with Professor X and the Illuminati.
Yeah, which made a lot of people really upset because those cameos died so quickly.
It was such a waste seeing those characters just die like that by Wanda. But thank God with this, they were all okay.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Another thing I really liked are Cassandra Nova's powers because it's pretty much a combination between her brothers and Jean Grey's essentially. But she can pretty much dig her fingers, not to sound wrong or anything, but she can pretty much dig her fingers into people's heads. Which it is disgusting, but it's pretty unique.
Yeah. She even explains how with her brother's powers he just uses his mind, but with her she has to get her hands dirty, like literally.
And when she's even looking into Wolverine's mind, they even show like clips and whatnot from the previous X-Men movies, which got us really excited.
But also confused, because like, wait, isn't this a different Wolverine variant or is it the same Wolverine variant?
Yeah.
But what we realized is when looking into his mind, it's probably connected to the other Wolverine variants' memories.
Yeah, it's pretty much how Venom in the Venom universe has pretty much the same memories as the Venom from Spider-Man 3. They pretty much share the same memories as the one from Spider-Man 3. Another shocking thing in this movie that we were surprised about is Pyro is the secondary villain in this movie, along with Paradox.
Figuring out who the main villain of this movie was kind of confusing. The whole movie was confusing as a whole, but like, you could still understand it, but like, a lot of the plot was kind of confusing. Like, who was the villain? How did this person get here? etc.
Like, although Cassandra Nova is the main villain in this movie, we were still a little confused on who was the main villain.
Especially during the part where Logan kind of like calms her down and he talks to her about like how her brother, Professor X, would be sad that she was in the void to begin with and would go look for her.
Yeah.
We thought that she would be on their side, which she kind of was for like a second. We thought it would be a twist that Pyro was the main villain, and then they changed it to Paradox, and then back to Cassandra again.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of confused us. Like, who's the villain in this?
But unfortunately, just like with Chris Evans, she kills Pyro.
Because he tries to kill her. Because apparently she has healing powers as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of Paradox, since he is played by Matthew McFadden and he's mostly known as Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice, I'm kind of sad that Deadpool didn't make a reference to that, since I think a lot of girls would have been laughing at, since that's what they know him from, but I don't think a lot of girls recognized him when they saw him in the trailer to begin with. Like,
yeah, because he looked a little, you know, older.
His look is completely different than when he played Mr. Darcy, but it's fine.
And now the last cameos in this movie, which we thought there were going to be more, but it's pretty much what they did with like No Way Home. But the last few cameos in this movie are like an army of Deadpools. One of them is Ladypool, who is played by Blake Lively, aka Ryan Reynolds' real life wife. There was a cowboy Deadpool voiced by Matthew McConaughey, and then there was Kidpool voiced by Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's daughter. There was also Babypool, who was also Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's kid.
Oh,
and,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and there was even Headpool and a couple of others. And during that scene, we finally get to see, after so many years, Hugh Jackman finally wearing the Wolverine mask, which, okay, here's our thoughts. Personally, for me, I really love the mask, but the way they designed it in the movie, it just looks
kind of goofy.
Yeah. If you can see right here, I think they just made the cowl or whatever just a bit too long.
Yeah, too long, too wide. I feel like if they made it a little shorter, it would look less goofy, less cartoony, and more, like, not like this specifically, but like, you know, a little shorter.
Like, basically how they made it look in the 90s series or even the video games.
Yeah, it kind of looked like he was forced to wear it since it was pretty much near the end, and like, the way he wore it looked kind of forced.
Like, it was basically a hood that he was hiding in his costume.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if it were an actual, like, mask or like a helmet, not really a hood.
Yeah, but like, again, where would he store it? Like in his ass or something?
So I guess it being like a pull-out hood makes more sense, but I still find it to be a little goofy, and it made me think, oh, that's probably why they didn't want to use it in the first place in the 2000s.
But personally for me, I really do like the mask, even if it looks a little goofy.
I personally think the suit looks better without the mask, and just having his hair as pretty much the mask, because like seeing it, I'm just like, ah.
And after killing the Deadpool army, they pretty much come back to life, but the way they stop that fight is when Peter comes in to basically save him and Wolverine and saying, do not kill this Deadpool, he's with me. And then he takes off his mask, and the Deadpool army are surprised that this Deadpool has a Peter in his universe.
And then they all stop to admire Peter.
Yeah. Now the last few things we're going to talk about in the spoiler review is that, of course, Wolverine and Deadpool save Deadpool's universe from being erased by Cassandra, and they finally defeat Cassandra. And also in that moment, Hugh Jackman does his iconic Hugh Jackman moment where he's shirtless again.
Yeah. Oh, also I wanted to point out that they made a little Armageddon parody at the end, like before Hugh Jackman becomes shirtless, like before they go into that room, they keep, you know, switching who would sacrifice themselves.
So after they defeat Cassandra, the girl from the Loki series, B-15, shows up, and that was also another cameo, but she doesn't really count as a cameo because, well, she is part of the TVA, but she basically says that Deadpool's universe is safe, and that version of Logan pretty much replaces the Logan that died from Logan, which basically makes him the new anchor being of the Fox X-Men universe. And he's pretty much the replacement anchor being for Deadpool's universe.
Since he joins Wade in his universe.
Yeah.
And they also retrieve Laura from the Void and bring her back into Deadpool's universe, which is where we believe she came from in the first place.
Yeah, because otherwise it would make no sense that, oh, Logan is in a different timeline, but it's not. It's in Deadpool's universe.
Since that Logan was the anchor being.
And then we finally get to the end credit scene, which is a tribute to all the Fox Marvel movies that they showed from the original X-Men, the original 2000s Fantastic Four movies, and the later Fox Marvel movies.
It's pretty much the Marvel that I grew up with, my childhood. He also grew up with it too, but it was the Millennials MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And as they played that while playing Time of Our Lives in the background by Green Day, it was just so nostalgic to see all those behind the scenes videos of all the Marvel movies that we grew up with while that song was playing in the background. It just gave that nostalgic 2000s feeling that I felt like back in the day. I also remember hearing that song on the radio back in 2005, so it gives like a connected nostalgic feel while watching those behind the scenes videos.
And now finally the post-credit scene.
It's basically Deadpool just showing proof that he wasn't lying about what Human Torch said about Cassandra.
Yeah, like I thought it would be something important to the MCU in the future, but no, it's just showing that.
Yeah, because they don't really have something final that they want to show that in the future MCU.
So although we did enjoy this movie, there are some things that we wish that could have happened in this movie regarding to the cameos. As much as I love the cameos in this movie, I just really wish we saw James Marsden, Halle Berry, Famke Janssen, Ian McKellen, and Patrick Stewart return in this movie.
Yeah, I was expecting for them to show up at the end, like, because they were talking about this Logan's X-Men and his timeline throughout the entire movie, so I thought, like, at the end he would go home and his timeline would also be saved, like, you know, the typical things that we see in these movies, but that wasn't the case. But although I am still very happy with the cameos, I think it's because Kevin Feige wants to save them for bigger and future movies.
Yeah, aka Secret Wars, which we're really, really excited to see, along with Avengers Doomsday, which, if you guys didn't hear, that Robert Downey Jr. will be playing Doctor Doom in these next two Avengers movies, which I'm a little skeptical about, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to seeing what his Doctor Doom has in store for the MCU.
Yeah, a lot of people have mixed feelings about RDJ returning as Doctor Doom. Like, if you saw our videos about, like, Disney Channel, how they're always reusing the same actors for new movies, I think that's kind of what MCU fans or Marvel fans in general are feeling, that, oh, you can't get a different actor, why do you have to reuse RDJ? Is it this, like, another cash grab or something like that? Like, I understand, but I do think he has the potential to be a really good Doctor Doom.
Yeah, but we shall see in these next two Avengers movies, because I'm just excited to see what he's capable of in these two movies. So overall, I really like the action, the cameos, and the friendship and bond between Deadpool and Wolverine in this movie. But again, this movie isn't perfect.
Like any movie, it has its flaws, it has some plot holes. Actually, it has a lot of plot holes, but it's still a really enjoyable movie that people would want to see over and over again.
Yeah, just like with No Way Home. And just like with that movie, we're even watching and replaying the clips over and over and over again. But what really makes this movie special is the bromance between both Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds in this movie. Not only is it funny seeing them together, but it's a dream come true seeing them finally together in one movie. Because we saw how they did the first time in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and they completely butcher that. So thank God we finally get to see them properly together in this movie.
Yeah, because they didn't really have much of a friendship or even a bond in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, because for one, they completely sewed his mouth shut, Deadpool, in that movie.
Yeah, and they barely had any talking scenes together, so...
Yeah, and that's why a lot of fans like to disregard that movie as being Deadpool's first appearance in a Marvel movie.
I mean, the current Deadpool kind of erased that from the timeline.
Yeah, as we saw in the previous Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
But personally for me, I'd give this movie a 9.5 out of 10.
For me, 8.5 out of 10.
I personally would rank this movie underneath or above Logan and Days of Future Past. But overall, what did you guys think about Deadpool and Wolverine?
Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think it was okay?
Or do you think this is the best multiverse movie since No Way Home? And as usual, make sure you guys check out my sister's YouTube channel and her social media pages in the description down below. So until next time, guys, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.